Anders Gustavson here. Welcome, Anders. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your time. So, the first question that I have for you is, and I would imagine there have been a number of iterations, but who were you before the you that you are now?
Yeah. Before, I think I've had a very interesting start, similar to so many other people, where when I came out of high school, I knew that I wanted to do something really big with my life. And I was essentially willing to do whatever it took to get there. And I started off right off the bat, simultaneously with college. I was an entrepreneur out of the bat, and I was definitely one of those guys that failed forward many times. Every single time I fell flat on my face. I learned a saying where I was like, then I was 5 foot 6 inches closer to like succeeding the next time, essentially. And so I started off in uh, see, it was interesting because my major in college started out as business, but when I got into that and when I started going to school, I realized that these teachers weren't actually where I wanted to be in business. And so I started questioning the whole like what school was and why I should be going to college and all those different things. And the creative solution I came up with for myself was that um, I went to college so that I could expand my artistic capabilities. Because with art and with creativity, I knew that whatever happened to me in life, if I am able to just spend 4, 5, or 6 years just really diving into creativity and really diving into art and really diving into expanding my mind in those ways, then that would assist me in whatever I wanted to do. And then simultaneously, I found lots of business mentors and other folks that really inspired me on the business side that were living the lives that like I wanted to have one day. And so I kind of got my business education from a lot of coaches and a lot of seminars and workshops. And I was one of those workshop fanatics for sure. I would be going to them all the time. And what that developed me into being was some type of machine. And I worked my ass off, and still like I just kept on like starting these businesses and just really going for it, and going for it for 1, 2, or 3, 5 years sometimes. And a few of them were successful, but if most of them weren't. And I got to this point when I was about I'm 42 now, and when I was about 30, maybe 28 years old, I got to this point where I had a really big realization around my whole entire life. And at that time, I was just not doing great financially. I was sleeping on, different, couches, or I was, staying at different people's houses. I was eating shitty food. I wasn't taking care of myself. And the business that I was currently like really hustling was one of those types where we really needed funding to get to the next step. And this carrot was just dangling out in front of me. And it was like, well, if you just get here, if you just get to this next level, then, you'll have everything that you want. And then that was a really hard place to get to. And so what I found myself doing was hurting myself because I wasn't giving myself what I needed to fully feel replenished. And I was just, I wasn't really feeling into where I was going. I just had this goal. And so for some reason, based on earlier childhood things, I learned to become this machine just going for things. And that ended up in a big crash, a big crash. And I had this amazing, like somewhat of a spiritual like revelation around the whole thing. And I realized that I had to change my life completely. I was going about business completely the wrong way. I wasn't on purpose. I wasn't happy. I wasn't doing the thing that I came here into this world to be doing. I was just working my ass off. And I turned out, being unhealthy and broke and just like delusional, like truly delusional about where it was that I was going. So I made a big move. I made a really big move at that time. I scrapped my business. I essentially gave it to one of my best friend who I was in business with. For him to move on, because we were too early for us to sell the business, but to maintain our relationship and everything, and we're still great friends today, which is a beautiful thing. But so I passed the business on to him and just told him that, what, I got to figure out what I'm doing in this world. This isn't it. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do. And so at that point, I needed to find a cave, essentially a cave to go figure out my life in. And I'm not a meditating monk or anything like that, but I do think that there's a lot of value in creating space for yourself. And what I did before I dove deep into my next venture was deep introspection, a lot of introspection on my life, and just really, what is this journey all about, and just like a deep dive into purpose, like, what do I actually want? What is it that I want to create? And when I was a few years earlier than that, I did start developing my life purpose. And my life purpose is to activate life purpose in others. And that I love doing in all these different ways. And what I realized was that the business that I was creating wasn't actually on purpose in that way. And so I got to just kind of like take a step back, and I didn't know what my life was going to be about. I didn't know what I was going to do. At the same time, I realized that there were family issues completely clean. And so I got this hint that I needed to clean up, needed to clean up my relationship in a good place, which was with my father at the time. So I had this great opportunity to spend 6 months with him. And then that really cleared my mind of a lot of different things and cleared up things around my childhood. And after that, I looked for a cave. And the cave that I found was a cave that I'd never before ever been a part of or thought it was going to be a part of, because it was all about growing, planting things and being with seeds, and then being with these plants, and being paid, to be with plants. And it was great because I used to be on my screen 15 hours a day in my tech days. And to get to be with plants and get to have my feet in the ground and really, tend to these plants, and then get to have, the budgets and everything else that I needed to help these plants truly thrive, was an incredible learning opportunity for me. Because what I came to realize was that humans, are a lot like plants. And what I came to realize with all of that was I started studying biomimicry, and I started studying permaculture, and I started studying like all of these, like how plants work. And then one of the things that I realized was that, like the vision, the vision that I have, and what's so important is not seeing things, as how they are, but really how they can be. And when you plant a tree, for example, there's so many benefits to planting that tree, but you don't get the benefits of planting the tree right away. It's going to potentially take multiple generations for all of the benefits to kind of be done. But all of these things are happening in layers. And so that's when I also got really into, once again, like lifestyle design, and really got to think about, how and what is it that I'm going to do, and how am I going to set my life up now in a way that is actually going to meet my needs, meet the needs of my family, meet the needs of my soul, and be able to help people and create this model that can then be of service to like the greater picture, but not do it from the perspective of capitalism, the perspective of building businesses the way that some people had taught me before, because I knew where that got me, and now I want to do something brand new.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about my history.
That's beautiful, man. And I want to come back to the solutions, because I think that's incredibly important. But I want to back up, and I want to go to, like you mentioned, the dangling of the carrot, And I imagine that's what a lot of people are, you know, they're still in. It's like, okay, if I can just work a little bit harder, then you know, maybe I'll get that bump in salary, or I'll get that, you know, I'll be able to go to the next level of whatever that is. Meanwhile, you know, they're sacrificing all of this over here. They're not able to spend time with family. They're not even able to live in the beautiful house that they've, you know, worked so hard to purchase, because they're still chasing that money. So there's the carrot part. And then you mentioned, you know, you kind of had this collapse where, like, you just, I don't know if you hit rock bottom, or you know what it was, but can you speak a little bit more to that period and what you actually went through to make you kind of realize, wait a minute, like this over here, what I'm doing is, it's not fulfilling, it's not the right way. I'm, you know, you mentioned hurting yourself. Can you speak a little bit more to what that period of time was like, what feelings you were experiencing, and then, you know, how you started to come to the idea that, okay, you know, something's got to change. I've got to take that space, you know, and I've got to go to that cave, as you mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, totally. So this word sacrifice comes up for me a lot. And when I was, 18 years old, I was able to like afford to sacrifice time in order for like a dream, to like happen. And like I said, I started multiple businesses. Some of them were, minorly successful. Some were like moderately successful, but I didn't have any big wins. And most of them were just like falling, and not really figuring it out. And each one was maybe like a 2 to 5 year period. And and so what I realized was that the older I got, the more valuable my time became, because nobody is going to be able to give me my time back. And so, from that perspective, I just really started encouraging myself to ensure that the things that I'm really investing my time into, no matter what happens, I'm still going to be benefiting from the efforts that I'm going to be creating, like into this. And and so so I used to be in technology. And so the problem with that was that technology evolved so fast. And because it either, in my opinion, it requires venture funding or a lot of money in order to really compete with all the other businesses and all the other things that you have to do, out there. So it kind of became the struggle. And so once again, there was a sacrifice that I was willing to make in the beginning. But then, especially when I took a step back and I realized, where I was at in my life at that like 28, 30-year-old like time, it's like, no, I really need to make sure that what I'm investing my time into is going to be fruitful for generations to come. And great if it produces a ton of money, then I can share, but it needs to produce enough for me, enough for my family, enough for those that I love. And I want to make sure that, it's going to be able to be enjoyed by my future generations, was how I kind of like got into thinking about like what is my next stage, what it is that I want to do.
Wow. So what I'm hearing is that, you know, you started to shift your mindset from a self-sacrifice type of position to one of, I've got to take care of myself first, and once I take care of myself, then I can really, you know, take care of others. And what comes to mind is this idea of a full cup and the overflow. You know, everyone else is on the saucer beneath the cup, drinking from the overflow.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's it, definitely. And and what I, coming back to this, I'm in this interview, and like what a lot of what I talk about is nature. And one of my biggest inspirations is the jungle. And so when I spend time in the jungle, and I sit there and I just like look at and observe all of the things that are happening, if I put my hand, like into the soil and just like dig into the soil and look into my hand, I see like tons of mycelial networks. I see bugs and worms and all of this stuff that's happening, up there. And then like I look around and there's all the diversity of the trees, and then there's the monkeys, and then there's all the different butterflies, and there's the mosquitoes, and there's this and there's that, and there's everything. There's the snakes and the everything. All of those things are existing in the most beautiful way, and that creates an environment that must be incredibly, like, if I was in, like, living in the jungle in that way, I mean, it just feels so inspiring to me to have such a healthy ecosystem around us. And so what I came to realize, after I'd spent a few years up on this mountain, kind of doing my monk like farming episode, I came to realize that, like, that's what we're missing. That's what we humans are missing. It's like we don't have environments that are truly designed to help humans thrive. And so what I think that so many of my businesses that I like failed in before was because the environment that I was working in wasn't an abundant, lush, amazing, super supportive environment. That's why co-working spaces are really fun places to start businesses up, because there's energy and there's all of these, this stuff kind of going on. And I think that's a relatively new concept, in the last decade or so. But in the same type of way, I kind of got this vision and really wanted to create, and really wanted to duplicate the experience of the jungle for humans. And so that's when my mind started shifting, and I started realizing, and started desiring to invent and create a utopian-like experience where, once again, my life purpose, which is help activate other people's life purpose, I wanted to leverage that and wanted to give that to a piece of land. And then I wanted to create, an experience within this land, and create a whole entire, lifestyle within this land that was duplicating that of the jungle. So, like, what happens if we grow all these different trees, we offer all the different fruit trees, we grow perennial gardens, we have art everywhere, we have, beautiful decks and beautiful design and beautiful, furniture that we've co-created and built, and having this whole entire place built and co-created by the energy of people that want to help others thrive. And so, so I wrapped all that together, and kind of that's what has evolved, and that's what I've been deeply involved in now, and for the last 8 years, creating this place, based on nature and based on the personal values that I have. And I think that's really important for everybody to consider. It's like designing a life. It's like, what are your personal values? What is it that you're designing your life on? And for me, it's about connection, and fun and play and creativity, joy, experience, depth, and really sharing knowledge and creating a space where knowledge can be shared so we can improve ourselves as humans. And so that's what inspires me. And so from here, it's it's just been an honor. It's been an honor to come and go to work every day, because I'm creating something not just for myself. It is for myself, and it feeds me, and it feeds my family, with the farm and all of the other aspects. But it really, like, overflows in the same way that you were saying. And so that's part of my design, and so this is how I'm doing it.
I love that. I love that. And I feel like for those people that are, they're still over here, they're out of balance, they're still in self-sacrifice, they're sacrificing their health, their relationships, even this idea of fulfillment. You spoke earlier about, the jobs that weren't fulfilling you. It wasn't your purpose. You weren't on purpose. And so for those people that are still over here and they're like, you know what, I'm in it, I'm kind of stuck now, like, I've got to put food on the table, I've got family, I've got kids, and I don't really have a choice. What would you say to them that are, feel like they don't have a choice, feel like they're stuck, feel like there's no real other options? I had a conversation the other day with a friend that I'm like, start a new business. He's like, well, I can't just quit, and that's true. You probably can't just quit, but what are the steps that you could take to begin to migrate back to this place of balance, of wholeness, of fulfillment, of health, and more connection in your relationships?
Yeah. So this is a beautiful question, and I could go, like, deep into this, or could go more surface level. How much time do we have?
Just like a couple of minutes, like 3 minutes.
Yeah. 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 Well, I would first of all just really observe your life and observe your time and observe what it is that you're actually doing. And so often, I think that a lot of people, because they're not super stoked on their own life, they're spending a significant amount of time not doing much of value. You know, like how much, how like if you look on your phone, you look at how many hours you're actually spending, you know, on that, like how much time is being stolen from you. And if you really like do that for a week, you know, you just write everything down just from a place of exploration. You know, not saying that you have to do anything, you know, starting small, you know, is a really, really big thing. So just first observing, you know, observing how are you spending your time, you know, and then after that is really exploring the options of like, well, what would I want to be doing? Like if I wasn't, you know, working at this store or working, you know, at this whatever the thing is that somebody is doing, just start pondering and exploring the different questions of what that is. And then really talking to your loved ones, you know, and like saying, you know, like, hey, look, I found out that like, you know, you probably already know because your wife or husband or whatever, they already know that you're wasting X amount of time. But it's sensitive, you know, it's sensitive because they know that you might want to be doing something else, but there's a fear involved in all of this stuff. And there's this thing about wanting to be comfortable. But like how much value does that actually give to your life? Is the question each one has to really ask. And so then starting small, you know, starting small and saying, okay, and trying things and just accepting the fact that failure is okay. You know, if you just like commit to doing something 1 hour a day for a week or 1 hour a week, you know, joining some group or joining a meetup or anything in the area that you think that you might want to get involved with and just starting small and then moving from there, you know, is really, I think, the best way to jump in.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful, brother. Yeah, I think those are some really valuable, simple things that people can do to begin to open up to the idea that, you know, maybe change is possible. So beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Okay. Do I still have you? I'm just getting a little choppy there.
You're you cut out entirely. Can you say that again?
Um, yeah, maybe I should just for the. So I just said, you know, beautiful, beautiful share, and you know, I love the you know simple couple of steps that you shared, and I think you know in taking those simple steps, people can really open up to the idea that you know maybe change is possible. You know, maybe they aren't as stuck as they think they are, and you know can start to move towards making those changes so that they are more fulfilled, happier, you know, and take their health and every part of their life back. You know, so thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think another thing to add on to that, I don't know if you know you have other people talking about this in general, but many of us entrepreneurs today are exploring AI and exploring like the capabilities, you know, involved in this technology. And so I would also recommend to start playing with that in your free time and start asking Chat GPT and start really exploring these concepts as as your buddy, you know, as your friend that you can really like ask these questions to, like what is the market of you know, selling hot dogs at Yankee Stadium, whatever the thing is that you're wondering about, you can use AI now to like have these conversations and to really explore some of these ideas and and get a good idea of, you know, like they can write business plans really fast. It can write marketing plans. It can do so many things, which before were huge hurdles for people in business, you know, because you have to have a plan and you have to, you know, have logos and you have to have you know design and all of these things and that is one of the great things I think with AI right now is you can really leverage your time a lot.